Hello, everyone. We're back again. We, as in me, I'm back again, and welcome to another episode of Becoming Me Again, The Journey. Today, we're talking about delusions because some of us, starting with myself, have delusional tendencies. And I think it's about that time to burst the bubble. So, needle out and let's get popping. So corny. So, what does it mean to be delusional? I mean, Google will tell you, and I quote, a delusional person believes things that couldn't possibly be true. If you're convinced that the microwave is attempting to control your thoughts, you are sadly delusional. Delusional comes from a Latin word meaning deceiving. So delusional thinking is kind of like deceiving yourself by believing outrageous things. That's kind of out there, but we'll go with it. Now, maybe you don't believe that a microwave is trying to control your mind and world domination and whatnot, but maybe there are other things that you have convinced yourself to be true that actually aren't. The thing about delusions is it works both ways. It could be negative or positive. Maybe you convinced yourself that Tom is totally into you and you're going steady. But Tom doesn't even know who you are. Or he does, and he sees you like a little sister. Or maybe you've convinced yourself that no one likes you, when actually that's all in your head. Whether it's good or bad, being delusional is never a good place to be. And sometimes we become delusional or have delusional tendencies as a coping mechanism because the reality of life is so hard. So it's better we fool ourselves than live in our truth. It's kind of like a non-technological virtual reality where our storylines exist in our heads and not actually in real life. So, where am I going with this? And what in the world does being delusional have to do with this journey? Well, I'll tell you this. You can't find yourself if you're living a fake reality. That will never be your genuine self and identity because you're caught up in make believe land. And when these thoughts start to dominate our lives and affect our relationships and decision making, it becomes unhealthy. Now, I'd like to share about my delusional tendencies because delusional recognize delusional. Like a lot of people, when really bad events occur, sometimes your first reaction is to convince yourself that it's not true. It's not happening. Now, the severity of the event may differ, but the reaction is usually quite similar. Let's say you're going through a breakup, which actually happened to me. Sometimes the reality of never being with that person again, or seeing them, or talking to them, or just getting a simple text is so dreadful. Even though you know the relationship is completely over and they've made it very clear in their actions, to try and cushion the blow, you tell yourself it's just temporary. They'll be back. And you find comfort in that. And that, my friend, is you, is me, is us being delusional. We have convinced ourselves of something we know to be false to protect our hearts. And in the moment, it feels more bearable, but in actuality, it's so dangerous. What happens when you convince yourself of something that is false? You believe it, right? And when the false reality is confronted with actual reality, then what? It's like a complete breakdown because two completely different worlds collide. The world we create, where everything is happy and fine, and the reality of the hurt we are feeling in the real world. And that's what happened to me. But I'm actually happy that my bubble exploded because that allowed me to realize I needed to heal to move on, to be better, and experience true life. If I had remained delusional, I would have stayed in this constant state of falsehood, never progressing, just waiting for something that would never happen. And that is no life to live. But as I mentioned before, that is not the only type of delusion. It's not always about creating a safe place with unicorns and glitter. Sometimes our delusional tendencies cause us to create a prison for ourselves where we only see the negative and we don't wake up and smell the roses. Instead, we exist in a state of doom. Why? Sometimes, again, we experience negative events and we convince ourselves that everything will always remain constantly bad. Or we become paranoid. Maybe if we believe that everyone hates us, we don't have to open ourselves to meeting people or uncomfortable situations where we may or may not get hurt. Or maybe if we believe negative things all the time, we don't get hurt easily because we already have our walls up. Either way, we can't keep leading ourselves down this path. There is no self-discovery there. There is no growth. There is no light. So how do we stop this? Bursting a bubble in practicality is so easy. But in real life, it's hard and uncomfortable. It's like ripping off a band-aid on a wound that hasn't healed. But if we remove that band-aid and let it breathe, then slowly we will see healing start to take place. But it's so hard, honestly. But the first step is the worst step. You have to look yourself in the mirror, or tell yourself, or say it loudly to yourself that whatever you're thinking to be true is not true. Why so dramatic? Because creating a false reality is very dramatic. Admitting your reality when it's so painful is hard. But you have to tell it to yourself, sometimes over and over again. Because we can be stubborn, and those delusional tendencies are always ready to creep in. So you have to convince yourself of the truth, no matter how hard or hurtful it is. It is the definition of ripping the band-aid off. You can't allow yourself to get so lost that you become unaware of your true emotions. It happens from time to time, yeah, but when you snap out of it by confessing and acknowledging what is real, you need to then cultivate an awareness of your thoughts and emotions in the present moment. Mindfulness can help you observe and challenge delusional thoughts as they arise, allowing you to distance yourself from them. And you know what else really helps? A real friend. A friend that will be real with you. It's so important because they're going to check you before you even check yourself. And surrounding yourself with people who will challenge your beliefs and provide a reality check when needed is top tier. This could be friends, family, or people who you're closely connected to. Sometimes our loved ones can see things more objectively than we can, and we have to be open to that. Now, I'd like you to know that it is normal to have occasional irrational thoughts or beliefs, but there are occasions where they are severe and can manifest in various forms, such as grandiosity, paranoia, or even religious fanaticism. And in these cases, I would urge you to seek professional help because your mental health should always be top priority. And if you find yourself struggling to overcome delusional thoughts on your own, don't be ashamed or hesitate to reach out to a mental health professional. They can provide guidance and support tailored to your specific needs. Look, I'm finding myself, and I honestly hope that this podcast can play whatever role in helping you find yourself too. But sometimes we can't do it all on our own. And it's completely okay to ask for help from friends, family, or a professional. There is no shame in reaching out and asking for help. There is strength in opening parts of your life to others that can help you. And there is strength in vulnerability. It's beautiful. Sometimes we've just been too strong for too long. And that's not just a Mary J. Blige song. That is the honest truth. Sometimes we've been holding it down by ourselves for so long that that's why we become delusional. Because in the natural, we've dealt with as much as we could. We've handled as much as we could, and we can't take anymore. So we start convincing ourselves of false realities so we don't have to deal with the harsh reality. And that's life sometimes. Sometimes life is wonderful. Sometimes life is hard. Sometimes there are just periods of life being really shitty. I'm sorry, but it's true. Life is like a never ending curveball being thrown at you, and you never know what to expect. So I understand why we create delusions. I understand why we lie to ourselves to make things better or to build up walls so we don't have to be surprised by anything bad because we're already expecting it. But we can't live like that. This is not what life is supposed to be like. And it's okay if you can't figure it out by yourself. It's okay if you can't handle it all by yourself because you're only human and everyone needs someone. So honestly, I'm talking to you. If you need help, you seek help. I think that makes you strong. I think that makes you courageous. I think that makes you inspirational. And that is ultimately what anyone should be aiming for. And when I say that, I want you to know that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's strength. Looking for help isn't weakness, it's strength. Not being able to do it on your own and acknowledging that you can't do it on your own is strength. Believe that. Know that. Because it's true. And it will help you throughout this journey, not only with what this episode is about in terms of being delusional, but in every aspect of your life. Well, we've reached the end of this week's episode. How relieving it was to open up with you all again on some of my experiences. And I hope that you too were able to reflect, learn something, exhale, and feel a little bit better. Actually, a lot better. Tune in next week for another episode as we rediscover ourselves together and dive into the deep end, hoping to find great treasures of who we truly are. Until next time, stay blessed. Thank you for listening in. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at ShyAnn Grant for weekly episodes and follow me on Spotify, Amazon Music, and Google Podcasts at Becoming Me Again, The Journey.